Some of the biggest names in cinema just stop pretending that the 35mm sensor is the finish line. And one tiny company built a camera that shoots film and digital at the same time.
Let's say that ARRI and Fujifilm is only 55mm. They are not alone in this anymore. This is really becoming the trend. So we've been already with Super 35, full frame. Now we're moving to large sensor in general. I really wonder if in the next years we're all gonna shoot IMAX at home.
ZEISS put a motor inside an anamorphic lens. No gears, no wheels. And Sony turned the VENICE 2 into a 65mm camera. And then there's the Frankenstein.
Literally, it's half digital, half film camera, Super 16. And the idea is that you can shoot on both film and digital simultaneously.
Fresh off CineGear 2026, episode 120. Let's go.
This is Focus Check, the weekly Cinetech podcast.
Welcome to episode 120 of CineD Focus Check. Welcome back from LA, Johnny.
Thank you, Nino.
This is actually our catch-up because we haven't really caught up since you're back from last night.
Yeah, I mean,
CineGear.
it was such a nice CineGear, I tell you. Although I have to say that it's very interesting to hear different opinions from manufacturers and people who visited, and of course our own opinion. But we can catch up in a second. Do you want to quickly go through of what we're gonna talk about today?
So we'll talk about all the nice videos you shot at CineGear, of course, about the new products. We'll start with the ZEISS Horizon Anamorphic lenses, those beautiful anamorphic lenses with a built-in motor, which is a real innovation. We'll also mention their Panoptes 65, which were also shown there, the 65 millimeter image circle lenses that were unveiled just before the show. In that same kind of context, we'll talk about the Sony RIALTO 65, which is their removable sensor block for 65mm for the VENICE 2. We'll talk about another camera, which is a fusion of a film and digital camera. That's the Cinelux Project 16 hybrid film and digital Super 16 camera. Very interesting project. The Bosma Vega H2 camera, which you also did an interview about.
Also interesting project.
Of course. We'll talk about the SmallRig, two products from SmallRig actually, a 25-liter backpack. So they're going into bags, and they're also stepping into SSDs with a phone-mounted SSD with a bunch of really cool features for filmmakers like instant proxies, which is amazing. Then an interview you did with Profoto on why they're betting into this quite saturated high-end cinema lighting market. Interesting topic, of course. And Strada upgrading to Strada 2 and the first look at their new version of the software. Then the NANLUX Matrix 2500B and 2500C, which we reported about before. You also did an interview on that. We'll talk about your interview with Eddy AI about building an AI teammate for editors. Of course, always controversial subject. And what their whole idea is about actually their project of, like not replacing editors, but kind of have a buddy that helps you with editing. You also did an interview with Tilta about your new Illusion magnetic filters, which is a variable ND, right?
It's a bunch of stuff from Promise to variable ND. It's a nice compact system.
And last but not least, the SIRUI IronStar 100mm anamorphic macro lens. And then a couple things that are not really related to CineGear. We'll talk about a Cadrage Studio app. You might remember Cadrage, the iOS app that is a Viewfinder app, which is very popular actually. They've been working on this. We know the team because they're also here in Vienna, and they've been working on this, I think, for more than 6 years. First time we heard about it was like 6 years ago, and now it's finally out in a beta early access, which is a new pre-production suite from the team that made the original Cadrage app. We'll talk about the confirmed pricing of the Kinefinity VISTA at $2,500. And you're also working on a review. And we'll talk about what Apple announced kind of on the side of WWDC, which is a lot of updates to Apple Immersive Video. And I have mentioned it a couple times before, but now it's finally out, so I have to mention it at the end if you haven't seen it. our documentary from the ARRI implementation at the Eurovision in Vienna. It's called ARRI 12 Points, 23 minutes documentary that I hope a lot of people will watch from the audience. Has a lot of views already, but quite proud how it turned out after all this work. And then we'll mention that GoPro put out a warning, or actually their auditor put out a warning, because they're a public company, that they may not survive the year, which is called a going concern doubt. And then the last but not least, we'll talk about the Chronos Project Edge, which is from a filmmaker in the US who I know is starting a Kickstarter on long-term remote time-lapse rigs that you can use with any kind of mirrorless camera, which is kind of cool. So you don't have to rely on these typical construction cameras that are usually used for these kind of things. But let's start off with the CineGear stuff. So Johnny, the ZEISS Horizon Anamorphics, what was your impression on that? I think you mentioned in the video that you haven't ever seen the ZEISS booth that packed.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing in the past 1 or 2 exhibitions before, and that was amazing. I was very happy for ZEISS to see such a full booth, and also to see them being able to differentiate themselves from any other Chinese manufacturer, for example. They're literally moving forward with lenses that are very, very interesting. And this set of 7 lenses, the Horizon Anamorphic, 2 times full frame anamorphic, I think that will be something that to take note. It's first of all, of course, it's a rental item. We don't have the confirmed price, so don't expect to rush and buy those lenses. That will be quite a lot of money, I can only guess. But the main thing here is, of course, the motors that are built inside the lens, next to a whole way to control so many parameters that you want through the LCD screen, that you have the little screen and literally touch and go, and then it should work. Of course, one of my immediate questions was, if you have motors inside, what does it mean? Will it in any way impact service in the future? Because we know how it is, motors, gears, and so on. But apparently those motors work in a different way. It's a pity we don't have the clip that ZEISS showed me that was not available to put in the video. But the way it works, it doesn't have like a mechanism. Yeah, so it works. No gears inside. Yeah, so they can really guarantee up to at least 50,000 cycles of. Like one cycle is going from minimum focus to infinity and back. And they already tried in-house, and after 100,000 cycles like this, I think they got bored. So they are not really concerned. They think they said they are using some technology that was used by this helicopter in Mars. Good to know that this is available. But seriously speaking, they are very confident on the technical aspect.
Now, what I see here if you watch the video, that it seems to be like these, it looks like a touch area on the side, right? So this is a touch sensitive area next to the display?
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean? Like
if you go...
No, you have menus. I mean, you have a proper four screens.
Here, he's moving...
No, but that's the focus, for example. So when you move the focus, it automatically changes the LCD screen.
But it's not an actually moving wheel. It's just something that has kind of a touch sensitivity.
I guess so. I mean, I asked if it's a fly-by-wire, and the answer was not.
No, I don't mean the mechanism. I mean the interface, the touch interface.
Well, I don't know what they used, but obviously when you're changing the wheel, it changes something in the screen, and I guess it's also changing it at the actual lens.
But it's not a wheel. No, it's not moving. I mean, it's like there's no physically moving parts.
Now I get it. Okay, sorry. Now we are aligned. Yeah, the 2 sides of the lens. Of course, there are no wheels because everything is happening internally. So this is like a touchpad, and that makes it very easy to use to kind of find what you want, like to slide and go to the meter that you want or the aperture that you want, and so on. So the concept is very different from what we are using so far.
How does the lens get power?
There is a LEMO side. On the other side, there's a LEMO part, so it gets the power like that. I mean, maybe you can see, again, for those who are not watching the video, but maybe you see on the lower part on the right side
Limo
lower
is
part.
connected, yeah.
That's right. Limo is
camera.
connected. So of course, not all lenses will be ready when like within this year. Some will be pushed to next year, but I'm very happy to see them doing something a bit different. Of course, another question that I ask if that will actually take out of job some of the focus pullers, and they don't believe so. They think that will actually help people or focus pullers, and it's not necessarily that everything.
Well, it's not an autofocus lens, so you still need a focus puller.
Yeah, but some of the work that a focus puller is doing, we know it's like calculating stuff and putting stuff and so on. So obviously, it might be just much easier for him or her to do stuff.
Did you ask him about other mounts? I guess this is LPL, but if you theoretically could put an E mount on this, you could use this for autofocus.
Yeah,
no?
we did. I didn't mention this. I can't remember talking about this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because of course, I mean, that would be great if you just remove the mount and put a E mount or whatever mount on it, and then be able to move it onto a camera that has autofocus built in.
Yeah, that can be.
That could utilize the internal motors. I guess that's the next step here.
Yeah, but no, we didn't talk about different mounts. I think don't forget the whole concept is relatively new, and also for ZEISS, I think they were a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of feedback and interest, and it's nice to see that.
Well, it's not only that it's their first. I mean, it's the first lens, like cinema lens that has a built-in motor. It's also their first anamorphic lens. There is no ZEISS anamorphic lens in the market, as far as I'm aware. At least not currently. Maybe older stuff, but there's nothing in the market right now.
Older stuff, yes, and they also did in cooperation with other companies.
The ARRI stuff and so on, yeah, but nothing ZEISS branded anamorphic is there. There's no footage from these lenses yet, no?
There was no footage from the lenses, and in all honesty, I tried kind of to sneak into the VENICE card to film, but that was really not possible. So far no footage, and so far no price.
Okay, well, he mentioned that it's, the way he sounded it's the typical ZEISS look, trying to be as neutral as possible with a little bit of a bluish tint for the flares.
Yeah, I mean, again, love it or hate it. It's always kind of a dual-edged sword. If you have too much aesthetic or characteristic to the lens, it might. Some people will say, "Yeah, you're trying to cover some optical limitations," and then when you have it too flat, it might be a bit kind of boring. Yeah, and we've seen this in the past with some other lens manufacturers. Here they chose to make probably a very high quality lens, very, very flat look, and that of course leaves a lot of options in post-production. The nice thing is that you have the smearing is very subtle. Yeah, it's not too strong, which I personally like very, very much. I just wonder, they obviously chose to do 2 times anamorphic, because I guess in many of the Hollywood productions, that's what they are looking for. But I really wonder if they will sell a lot of those, if they will be willing to go down later down the line with something that is a bit more affordable, and maybe 1.5 squeeze, because that's becoming kind of the gold standard with open gate and so many of us are really looking for 1.5 squeeze anamorphics, and I wonder, but I'm sure let them see first after they roll this out how is the reaction, mostly from rental houses, and then take it from there.
Yeah, very interesting. I think, I mean, usually ZEISS is about image perfection, and I'm sure they took great care to not have a lot of distortion on the edges, which is very typical for those budget anamorphics that are in the market now, where you literally pan and then like everything is warping. And actually that reminds me of the conversation you had with Glasswork, the other last podcast actually that we published, where they were also talking about that, because that's the typical thing that's kind of normal for those cheap anamorphics, that they really suffer on the edges, which can be considered a characteristic, but as soon as for a narrative piece can be problematic, because if an actor is moving through the frame or whatever, or it's like if you don't only shoot portraits, it's problematic, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to conclude this, that will work with Preston, it will work with C-Motion and some...
Anyway, he said, talking to C-Motion.
C-Motion, but working with ARRI's ecosystem and Preston right now, and they're looking for other manufacturers to collaborate and do just to extend the ecosystem, which is good.
All right, moving on to the second topic, which is also, I mean, that was announced ahead of CineGear, but maybe you took a look. ZEISS also announced the Panoptes 65, a new series of large format primes at T2.2 with a 59.9 millimeter image circle.
Yeah. In all honesty, I took only a brief look. What I was interested, guys, please don't laugh, is about the naming, because this is not like a name that is so easy.
Panoptes?
It's like, who is coming with those names? So apparently...
Well, there's a very famous, it used to be called show Panopticum.
Yeah.
I
was explained what it means. I'm sorry, I can't remember right now. Still a bit jet-lagged, but all in all, there was a lot of interest about... you could see how many people are interested in the lenses. And for sure, this... next to the RIALTO from Sony is really securing now 65 millimeter sensors. So let's say that ARRI and even the Fujifilm is only 55 millimeter. They're not alone in this anymore. This is really becoming the trend. This is really becoming something that we have to take note of. We've seen other companies, Chinese companies, like Nisi, for example, bringing this type of large sensor format lenses to the market, and obviously ZEISS is there too. We have the pricing. Please remind me. I think it's not that cheap. We are talking
21,000. Well, 25,000. Some of them are 21,000.
Yeah, so I guess, guys, you will not run to buy those lenses. This is mostly for rentals. But I think the most important thing to take from here is, again, the direction where the industry is moving. It seems as if everybody is looking for another source of income. So we've been already with Super 35, full frame. Now we're moving to large sensor in general. I really wonder if in the next years we're all gonna shoot IMAX at home. I don't know.
The high, you can. It's almost like the high end is chasing something new, because the wide public is now shooting full frame, right? Because full frame is not special anymore. Everybody and their mom releases a full frame camera now. So the high end is really looking at 65 millimeter, and of course there's a lack of lenses in this field.
Yeah, so that's a good time to join the lens race, I would say. But when it comes to cameras, I can only predict. Yeah, it's not that I have any solid information. Please don't catch me by the word. But if Fujifilm is doing now GFX Eterna 55, it might be because they already have the GFX system in general. It's just a matter of enhancing the video specifications of the GFX 102. But what I wanted to say is something that we talked at NAB with Michael Cioni from Strada. If you remember, we talked that the GFX Eterna 55 is a niche within the niche camera. Don't know if you remember, but that was the idea, that right now it's appealing to whom exactly. But now that we can see that it's maybe becoming out of the actual niche, and it might be more of a mainstream thing, because if you take into account the GFX Eterna 55, and we were always criticizing the price of it, suddenly if you compare it to other alternatives, this is becoming kind of a more affordable camera.
And even the Ursa 65 is a lot more money, actually. I think it's like 30,000.
Let me check quickly at B&H just to see. This is the 17K, no?
Yeah. It's called 17K 65 now, I think.
Yeah,
they
okay.
changed the name, but they just raised prices a couple times, so they might have.
This is only 20,000.
Okay, well, so it's close.
But
it shoots raw.
But anyway, it's this is something. I'm always a bit torn between the top professionals and the lower tier here, independent filmmakers that want to touch stuff. But I guess everybody's trying to differentiate a little bit the markets, so sell more stuff more expensive to the higher tier, the professionals, production houses, rental houses, and so on. And then, of course, you have the lower tier, because we can see we're going to talk about the Kinefinity VISTA in a second. Somehow, even the lower end of cinema is now stabilizing around $2,500. Yeah, and you have to take this into account. And I think both of us already established long time ago that the quality of those cameras are so good anyway. So you have to really have a justification why to pay much more.
Well, I think this is. I mean, we see, of course, with Christopher Nolan being, like really back in the game with his new movie Odyssey that's coming out, and of course he always shoots on IMAX cameras. I think a lot of people just want to shoot on IMAX. I saw an interview even. Somebody did an interview with Steven Spielberg, and they asked him if he would ever do a Netflix movie, and he said only if they let me shoot IMAX.
Okay.
So like there's a. It seems to be, and of course CineGear is the perfect show to show this kind of stuff because. I think everything is not everything, but a lot is moving in this direction, I guess, and everybody wants to differentiate themselves from the rest.
Yeah, but it's still the price point right now. This is really for much bigger productions.
Of course, but I mean, 20,000 for one of those lenses actually doesn't shock me as a rental item, because
Well, usually you will not buy one.
It's not a lot more than like some of their Supreme Primes and so on.
Of course, but as a rental house, you will not buy one. Yeah. You will buy several of those, and I have to tell you that I read enough. I heard enough horror stories about rental houses that are simply closing their gates. So. Maybe the ones that are still there, if they will see that there is a need for those lenses, they will get it.
Well, I think you see this. I saw an interview. There was a really nice story in the New York Times yesterday about the guy at Netflix who commissions all the movies. And there used to be, I forgot the name.
Yes, a bodyguard.
The other guy, the old guy, was the one who actually commissioned all those kind of big budget movies with the big names. And the new guy, apparently very approachable, doesn't really care about celebrities. I mean, he commissioned a couple movies with celebrities, but not because of the celebrities, but because of the story. So he's commissioning a lot more movies, and he's really the gatekeeper here. I mean, they mentioned that he literally commissioned 88 movies in 2 years. That's like 4 times or 5 times the amount of, or more actually, like 7-8 times the movies that an average Hollywood big studio executive would commission per year, and the only way they achieve this is just by having a lower budget but more stories. So they really trying to be more efficient now and kind of going back to their roots in a sense that, and whether people like it or not, like they are the biggest company that is commissioning movie production now, and if those production need to drop costs, they will also drop costs on gear and crew. And like I'm not talking about low budget cameras, but I'm talking about things like cameras that like don't cost. They cannot shoot IMAX. They cannot shoot on film and stuff like that. Well, that's why Steven Spielberg is, I guess, mentioning this. But they will be able to shoot on something like this, which is not exactly affordable for the rest of us, but it is something that is approachable for higher budget productions, even though they might be on a tighter schedule than before.
I mean, we didn't talk about the mood in general at CineGear, but I can tell you for sure that one of the buzzwords, because you just mentioned the guy at Netflix who is in charge of productions, I think everybody wants to be like the latest film, The Obsession, for example, the horror film that made by a YouTuber, basically. There are 2 of those running. I think they spent less than $1 million, and it became crazy, like how much money it makes. So, if in the past it was more like creators who making something, now I think everybody want to move to Netflix or to the big screen. And I think that maybe that's what many, like including Netflix, will look for when you say they don't really care about big names or celebrities, because those guys proved you don't need to be a celebrity in order to make a successful movie.
Yeah, well, for horror films, that's always been the case.
I'm just saying it is the latest trend, and I heard so many people mentioning and talking about it. So it goes on both ages. From the creator sides, everybody has something to look at and say, I can make it. And from the production side, obviously, companies like Netflix are taking notes and say we can invest maybe a bit less money or something that also can cater us in the big screens in case that we have to do some stuff.
But in general, I think it's just interesting that those big companies like ZEISS and Sony that are really not. That's one important thing too. Neither ZEISS nor Sony are dependent on the cinema market, right? Those companies are huge. ZEISS is doing really well in a lot of other fields that have nothing to do with image production. Actually, they make those lithography machines that actually, like make computer chips and stuff like that. It's booming now. But it's interesting that they're kind of pivoting to a market which is not already covered by those lower end, cheaper brands. That's just an interesting thing to observe, I think. And talking about Sony, let's talk about the Rialto 65, which was also shown for the first time at CineGear. And I guess that's the other booth which was very packed, no?
Yeah, absolutely packed. Actually, there's always some parties, or let's call it some gathering before and after the show itself. And some of them Sony was sponsoring, and it was also really one of the big announcements this time. And Sony's booth was exploding with people. And there was a lot of interest with the Rialto, and it's nice to see that actually it will come probably like it would come in most probably in two versions. One is the detachable part that can be kind of extended and give you a smaller.
But before we go into this, let's talk about what it is, because if people haven't.
Yeah.
So the Rialto 65 is basically a 65mm sensor version of the extension system Mini. And it's compatible with the VENICE 2. So you don't need a new camera. It's the VENICE 2.
Only the VENICE 2, just so you know, because the VENICE one has no processing power.
Yeah. So this is an optional attachment, which is still, it's detached. It's not replacing the default sensor. So you cannot just have the one body thing. It is the detached version. However, which was interesting, when I did the original interview of the VENICE extension system Mini in England, when was this, 2-3 years ago? One of my questions to Nobu-san was, why don't you sell this as the default camera? We don't need the default sensor which is stuck to the camera. You can just sell this with a cable, just sell it with a shorter cable, and then you have a one camera system. And I guess that's what they're now doing with this one, because there is a version with a long cable. But you said there's also one where it's kind of...
Yeah, there was a version that I saw. I mean, maybe you can see it not on this photo. There's another photo to demonstrate it. I'm sorry, I didn't take it from the side. But it looks as if the whole Rialto is sitting on the VENICE 2, basically. So as we can see, there is an official photo from Sony that exactly demonstrates what I saw at the show. One version on the right-hand side is kind of an add-on with the cable and so on. And then on the left-hand side, you can see that you can really attach the whole front to the camera and literally have a 65mm sensor with the VENICE 2. Very interesting.
Yeah, that's literally what I think that should be the default camera, even for the normal version. Why do you need the built-in sensor? You just sell it like this with the full-frame sensor, detachable, and a long and a short cable, or whatever, no cable, and just connect it directly to the body, because then you have a real differentiator to the Alexa, and also to the Red and so on.
Yeah, but I don't think that everybody needs 65mm.
No, I'm not talking about the 65. I'm talking even about the normal extension system, the normal Rialto system, because it has all the features from. I think the only thing that they're missing, or the original Rialto, I think didn't have. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it has I think it loses the END, and only the extension system Mini, for the full frame, has these drop-in filters. But so if they can solve this, you don't need the built-in sensor anymore, because you can just have this flexible system. Anyway, maybe it's just me, but I think it would make
and it's a beginning of something, and I'm sure that Sony will take a look at it. A lot of interest. Again, the medium format or large format is really a growing segment right now, and we should all take a note about it.
Yeah. So it's cool that they just give new life to a camera that has been in the market for a couple of years. And Sony in the old days always used to do those roadmaps when they released a higher end camera, when they were like, oh, at the beginning it's going to do this, and then half a year it's going to get a firmware update and do this, and so on. And sometimes those things were delayed, I remember, where people got a little bit frustrated that, like it took them long or whatever. So I think at some point they just stopped giving those roadmaps, which was also frustrating, because then you get a camera which, like the Burano in the beginning actually was missing quite a lot of features, and then got them at some point. But it's of course great to have such a surprise. To suddenly get this capability. Yeah. Do we have any pricing for the Rialto 65?
No, there was no pricing that I could get. And also, they really, really tried to keep it top secret until the end, until the presentation at the clubhouse, at the AAC clubhouse.
Okay, cool. Good. Let's move on to another new camera, which is very unusual. You did a nice interview with, what's his name? Cole from Cinelux Project. It's called 16, the camera?
That's right, Cinelux 16. And Cole is a very nice chap. And he, together with two friends, developed this camera. It has been in the making, I think, for almost 3 years now. Last year, he had a prototype, early prototype, but they decided not to show it because they didn't feel comfortable yet. And I have to say, before even diving into what it is, that there was a lot of interest. I saw him personally talking to some DPs that we know, like Orange Software and so on, literally stopping him, surrounding him, showing this. And it's one of these amazing Frankensteins that I think there's so much, for me personally, there's so much logic to develop something like this. And I'll be very happy to see something like this in the market. And I will explain in a second why. So basically, this camera, it's not ready yet. The color science is not ready yet, and the menu is working, but everything is not finalized. But obviously, by showing this, the guys they are really sure that they can make it.
Tell us what it is, finally.
It's what?
Just wait. You haven't told anybody what it is yet.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So literally, it's half digital, half film camera, Super 16. And the idea is that you can shoot on both film and digital simultaneously. The sensor itself is an off-the-shelf Sony sensor, forward sensor, window to 16 millimeter. And the whole idea here that you basically can shoot both at the same time. Now, you might ask, why do we need this? And of course, in the comments, we saw that some people are asking. For me, the main thing here, I think that will be an amazing tool when you are in school, for example. If you want to teach people to shoot film, there will always be a digital backup. So for insurance or reassurance purposes, that can be really, really great. And of course, when you're shooting a film, you will have an immediate dailies to share with whoever needs from the production. So again, for me, there's a lot of sense to create such a machine. The only thing is, it will cost $40,000. So some will argue that that's a lot of money, but if you check the equivalent from ARRI or so on, like all the secondhand stuff, that can even be $60,000. So in a way, I hope that will drive prices of in general, this kind of older film cameras, which are only film, maybe a bit lower. I know that you might have, or some of you guys might have a question about technically how it's working, what are the advantages, what are the limitations, how the video and like the digital part and the analog part are actually synchronizing, and what does it mean about exposure and so on. In this short interview, we didn't answer everything. This is still open for discussions. So if you have a specific question, you also had some specific questions, please put it or please write it in our site or YouTube, and we will, of course, reach out to the company to try to find out more.
Well, yeah, because we had one good comment from William Young, who's a long-time reader of the site, which is also what immediately came to my mind when I saw the video. Is he wrote that the big problem is that the mirror shutter has to be out of the way for the film and in the way for digital, unless they were splitting the image requiring more light, and splitting through a mirror, of course, which would basically half the light that's going through. I guess it's going to capture what's in between the shutter. So basically, it would be out of phase from a motion standpoint. You would not have the exact same frames in that case, which makes sense. But I think that's why Cole in the interview always mentioned it as a proxy workflow. Essentially, I don't think, because when you shoot with a film camera, you want to use the film, which is that's why you're shooting on film. Because why would you actually use film if you had a digital thing if you didn't want to use the film? So the logic for me here is to use this as the proxy and dailies that you can immediately start editing with. And also, of course, if you think about it, if you were to shoot, let's say, a high-profile concert of somebody famous and you want to shoot this on film for a documentary, for example, but you still want to have an immediate result for maybe
Instagram.
Social media, that's perfect, right? You can shoot on the same camera, you can get something out of this immediately and then use it. I think for the whole thing, for me, what's interesting, of course, you would have to have almost like LUTs that mimic the look of the film stock that you're using.
That's what we're working on. Yeah,
that's great, because imagine, like you kind of dial in the Vision 3 look in the camera as a kind of a preview or just to slap in a look onto the. That's really cool.
The thing is, when you mention proxies, I think proxies are normally associated with low quality video. But here, I don't think that they mean proxies as a low quality. If those are still called proxies, fine, but high quality videos that if something went completely wrong, they will have their own RAW and so on. So there is a proper backup. And of course, the intention is to work or end with film, but still you're able to save the day with the digital copy that you have. One question that I had also to Cole, and he kind of, in a way, dismissed me, but I'm happy to hear what you guys think about it. Would you buy only the digital part of the camera? I mean, what I'm saying is that let's say there are a lot of digital cameras in the market, but imagine if the company would sell only the digital part.
Well, what's the point of it then?
Well, you can grow with the system later. So because not everybody has you can't really immediately put $40,000. I really wonder if the image is really, really nice, and if this is something that you might want to shoot on a 4x3 16 millimeter sensor, if it makes any sense. I really wonder. This is just.
But then you lose the whole USP of the thing, and you could get the same Super 16 digital look for a lot less money from a different manufacturer.
This is true, but you just said that imagine that there is a proper look. We are always looking for a certain look, and if these guys manage to create a very nice picture aesthetic with a certain look that mimics film stocks, maybe it will be interesting. I'm just saying, this is just something. It doesn't sound maybe very logical on first hand, but maybe this is also for them. As a business, maybe you can either sell the whole package or maybe only the digital part. I really like when he said that they had the time and they had the money. So, because a project like this is not cheap, of course, to develop, and it's good to know that they had support. And I'm very much looking forward towards 2027 when this hopefully will materialize into something essential.
I think there's a lot of potential if they take the digital part in a way seriously, that it's kind of focusing on the instantaneous delivery, kind of the complete opposite of what the film does. Like imagine having, like this immediacy of digital, even with maybe Wi-Fi app connection built in, something that's completely counterintuitive to what the film is. I guess there will be some usage scenarios for that, but of course it's going to be a huge niche. I mean, no doubt about that. It's not going to be, of course, mainstream.
Well, for now, I just see mostly film schools, and of course, maybe some DOPs that want to again go back to film. Maybe that will help also to convince producers.
But I think what you said in the beginning is what makes most sense to me, is that this might be a great training tool for students who want to learn to shoot on film, because that's always the problem, right? I remember in film school I was able to shoot film 3 days or whatever, and then you literally wait for weeks to get the results, and by that time you kind of forgot your settings on the camera, right? So it's like if you don't have a lot of chance, and this is if it is in sync in terms of the settings, which it should be in this case, even though it might be out of sync, out of phase, because of the kind of issue that I mentioned with the shutter that is covering the sensor. But other than that, of course, everything else is the same, right? And even the exposure should be the same. So it's a great training tool, I guess.
Good.
One worry I would have about a camera like from a company that small, spending that amount of money is, of course, are they going to be around 5 years down the road? That's the issue, right? You have if you spend that amount of money on something like that. So, but yeah, that's for everybody to decide for themselves. All right, let's move on to another niche company / camera, I would say, from Bosma, the Bosma Vega H2.
I wouldn't say niche.
Well, niche in the sense that
we don't know the company yet that well. Yeah. So Bosma is a Chinese company. They also have in the San Francisco Bay Area. They have a marketing team and hopefully service soon. And you might ask yourself, why another camera? So first of all, this company has been in the market for quite a long time. I know them for a few years, from a few years ago when they used to do security stuff. But obviously, Franklin, the owner and CEO of the company, decided to move on. He sees an opportunity in the filmmaking market, which is very interesting. And the fundamentals of this camera are three main things that we haven't seen before in any other camera, and maybe even in this price range. First of all, the lens and the whole sensor block can rotate, which is really great. And that means that you can actually film horizontal or vertical, depending on what you want to do. This we haven't seen from what I remember. I haven't seen any other camera that can do this. Other thing is there is an autofocus mechanism that is built in, which you can remove if you want to, but otherwise it's absolutely there, and you can work with manual focus of your liking and give them autofocus life. And that's it was quite convincing when we did some experiments. It's working.
So it is a motor that's connected to the camera, and the motor is activated kind of through a LiDAR?
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't know if the actual thing is LiDAR. I can't remember per se if they're using LiDAR for that, the way it looks.
Yeah.
But it is working very good from the little demo that we did. And the last thing is a variable ND system that is also, you can snap in an ND. And, that kind of, obviously, you can do this. I mean, we can see that you can do this. We've been hearing many times that it's very difficult or whatever, very expensive. So this company solved it in a nice way. We've seen similar concepts before from other companies, but as part of an attachment, like part of a adapter, let's say.
But it's not mechanical, which means you have to physically remove it.
You have to remove it, but after that you can control it. As you can see, you can control the strength of it.
But you physically take it out if you don't want.
If you don't want it, exactly, especially like for indoor stuff.
Yeah.
So those are the three fundamentals of this camera. Other than that, it's a very modern camera, obviously. But on the other hand, in order to reduce a bit the cost, there is no CF Express Type B, for example, only SD. There is no RAW recording internally.
What codecs does it use?
H265 and ProRes, but no ProRes RAW. But this is just of course, RAW is not important for everybody. I'm just saying that it is becoming kind of common, and in this camera in particular, you will not find it.
And it's 6K?
This is 6K, and the other thing is to remember is that you are able to change the mount of the camera, and you can either choose between PL, EF, and M mounts. And unlike what is written on the website of the company, I verified that the mount can be changed let's say at home. Yeah. So this is nice to know that you can use it.
But you always buy the PL version and then you get the others.
Yeah, that's right. So because with the PL version, obviously you can work with the autofocus mechanism of the camera. So then comes, of course, the question of, let's say, pricing. Right now, the camera is priced around $5,000 and I really wonder if you guys are willing to invest that kind of money. I'm really generally interesting to know for a company that we don't really know, and that's the other thing. I mean, they will have to do a bit of work to establish themselves in the market, and even more so with the service, because when we all buy cameras, of course, we are concerned a little bit, what if something goes wrong? So they will have to make sure. They already have a partner in Japan. They are working in the US, as I said, and then really now actively looking for somebody in Europe to be kind of a partner/service partner.
Yeah, interesting concept. I mean, it has some things going for it that nobody else has, which is, of course, the main thing, I think, is the 90-degree sensor move, which is, we talked about this before, no?
Many years ago. I mean, we always mention how come nobody's doing this.
Exactly. It's, I guess, I mean, it's, if you shoot a lot of vertical, and a lot of people have to shoot a lot of vertical stuff now, makes a lot of sense. It might make more sense than using OpenGate for that in many cases, because it means very often you know the delivery spec, right? And if you know...
you don't know the delivery, and then you mean if you don't know the delivery for use OpenGate, but if you know to use this, yeah.
If you know the delivery, you have to shoot something only for vertical usage, then it's kind of annoying to frame within an OpenGate for that. Of course, you can do that, but of course, it's nicer to just move the entire sensor like this. And but like you said, I mean, I think, of course, it's a question, would you bet on something you don't know? However, I think they managed to convince with a few things. Also, like the electronic variable ND is quite cool.
This one and the monitor that comes with the camera, and obviously you can attach it in such a way that you see a vertical image already.
And the size-wise, it looks like a FX6 type thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, maybe that's not a very modern, like a modern design, because everything is kind of moving into a cube or...
Yeah, but not if you have an ND. I mean, basically...
I'm just, it's like, it's okay. I mean, it's a modern camera and it's all fine, but I'm just saying this is not necessarily a design that I will go after in present time, yeah. But I think it's very much a matter of maybe preferences, and for many of the people, yeah, that's fine.
I still prefer to have more buttons and less menus, and that kind of shape works for me. But I don't think it's very big. But yeah, I understand what you mean. It's more the handle, actually. If you take off the handle, it's kind of cubey-ish.
Yeah.
But it actually looks a bit similar to the EVA 1 from Panasonic, if I think about it, like the whole layout of the
I can't even remember the EVA 1. I remember what you mean with a lot of buttons on the left-hand side, but this is all in all forgotten camera. And
no, but it's it's a cool concept. I mean, $5,000. I think it's not exactly
for
cheap,
me. This is more,
but it is also not expensive. You know what I mean? It's like
well, the question is, will you pay the extra here, kind of extra, for those features, and also for a company that you don't 100% know?
Yeah.
I think maybe it's more of a $3,000 camera, but then of course when you set up a price, it's very difficult to go up.
But I guess it comes also with the motors for the autofocus.
Yeah, it comes. The kit is there. I mean, the kit is there. So of course we have to take into account when we say the motors are there and so on. So I understand why they chose this particular price. But I'm very curious. Again, the people behind are very determined. I would actually note something a little bit different. This is already the second Chinese company next to Kinefinity that is coming up with something new. And I think that the Japanese companies really need to start to take notes, because
I hope they've started doing that years ago. But yeah,
I hope so. But I'm just saying that both cameras from the Kinefinity Vista and this one, they have some innovative design/features in them, and maybe it's a big luck that those cameras are not also photo cameras or hybrid. Right now they're kind of targeting filmmakers or content creators in the sense of filming, But if we will start to see those companies doing also hybrid cameras, that will really challenge the Japanese companies, and that will come. If anybody that thinks that that will not happen, if they will identify the like how to make money, and then of course they will go for it.
All right. Good. Let's go a little bit quicker through the next few things. So you did 2 interviews with SmallRig, one about bags. They're going into bags.
Well, SmallRig is a company that literally growing into so many directions. It's really amazing. And anytime that they will identify any product which is interesting for filmmakers / creators, they will go after it. And now we can see this with both products that I covered during the show. One is a 25-liter bag. And of course, they try to differentiate themselves because there's so many bags out there. So this is supposed to have... I mean, it looks a bit bigger. They don't try kind of to make it look small. But the inner part, it's all about securing stuff. So it's not really moving like we say in Japanese, boro, like that it's just moving and rattling inside. And it felt like a very nice bag, I have to say. Some secure innovation, good zippers and so on. And if this 25 bag will be popular, they might look into 35 and even 55 liters. I want to say 55 millimeter.
65 millimeter bag.
Exactly. Yeah. So, of course, there is no pricing yet. They took a lot of notes during CineGear from people who saw the bag. Personally, I was rather impressed. I think it looks good. But again, the competition in the bag, it's crazy. There's not much else to say, but move to the second product, which is the SSD. And of course, we've seen already SSDs in the market. This one is made together with another company by the name Cocard. And apparently, everything that has to do with the software itself is being developed by Cocard, but the memory, but distribution itself is being done with SmallRig. And the amazing stuff about this one, and this is not a field that I'm 100% familiar with. We see a lot of those media like SSDs that can be literally connected to iPhone or whatever and then record video. This one can really also convert to proxies, and apparently that you can also record like RED format RAW and Canon RAW and other stuff into this media. So it is working on phone, but you can also do some other stuff with it. And I think the biggest thing for me personally, if I can really record into this and then later convert into proxies that I need either for social media or fast editing, I think that's very, very nice.
Well, it has a micro SD and SD reader as well.
That's right,
which is great.
That's right, and you don't have to wait to see if you're connected or not. You have like a blue. You can easily see with
that's
the purple.
A huge issue with those things, because it's great that they put this in, that it gives you this light, gives you an indicator that it's connected to the phone. And because that's a typical thing, you don't know if the USB-C kind of comes out. The phone doesn't give you a notification that it's not connected anymore, and then you just lose mid-transferal, you lose the connection or something.
And of course, there is a whole software behind it, as we said, by Cocard, and from the demonstration that Mani showed, it's working. So it's very easy to move stuff, and it's very easy to convert stuff, and so on. Yeah. So
what he demonstrated is great, that you can do these on-the-fly proxies because, like you said, you could use this as a normal SSD. Even theoretically, you can record directly to an SSD from a lot of cameras.
That's right.
And then you have the footage on there, or you just transfer your footage through the SD or micro SD card. It doesn't have a reader for CF Express and so on.
This is something they will consider. It really depends on how people will react to this.
But even from an SD, and then you connect, and then it converts through the software into proxy, and then from the software you upload into a cloud service. So you kind of can, like you said, it would have been perfect for you guys on the show floor, right? To do this immediately and transfer to the editor.
That's right. Right now it doesn't support Frame.io. This is something that I asked them to look closely into, because we are working with Frame.io. But of course, it can do Dropbox, Google Drive, and other ways. So this is just something to look at. And they currently have 1 and 2 terabytes The 1 terabyte is $270 at B&H, and the 2 terabytes is $550. And they're also looking into a 4 terabyte version, but I'm sure that will be much more expensive.
So even SmallRig has to suffer from high memory prices, as we can see in the pricing of these models.
Well, in a way, yes, but
it's twice the price than what 2 terabytes used to be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but I really wonder, and that's something that of course I discuss with Mani, to know what will happen in the future, because we know that this market is becoming a bit vulnerable, and to see if the prices will go up too quickly, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Good. Let's talk about Profoto. You did an interview with, what's his name?
Rod
from Profoto, and why they are betting on high-end cinema lighting.
Yeah, the thing is that we already covered the ProPanel 3x2. We also have a very nice review that Graham, our colleague, did. And I was actually more interested to know that Profoto is so well known in the photo side of the business with flashes and so on. Suddenly they decided really to enter the filmmaking side of it. And this is a public company, so obviously they are listed in the Swedish stock exchange. So those type of moves, you never know if it's to cater the shareholders, or there's any other logic behind. And with Rode, he really tried to explain what is the idea behind going into producing those lights. They're very steady, they're very good. People who are using them, I also personally met 1 or 2 people that are using them. They like it, but it's extremely expensive. So this is of course a rental only item. They're listed like $15,000 for the light, and of course don't try to put it on the camera. It's a bit heavy. I'm joking. It's quite big. But he gave a lot of reasons why they see why they think it's beneficial to move to this segment. One thing that I was concerned about is more about service again, because if you're not really well known about like if you don't know in the industry, what do you do then? But they're even they're offering 72 hours service. So like it will not be after received in the service center, after 72 hours, they promise to give it to you back, or a loan, or fixed. So they're really trying. I just hope for them that they will really manage to have a lot of service points around the world, because we know how it is. When you're working professionally, there is no downtime.
Yeah. So we don't get a lot of sleep, I would say, because we report about so much stuff. But another person who doesn't ever sleep, I think, is Michael Cioni, who we've had on the podcast before, of course. And you did a nice interview with him at CineGear about Strada 2. Now, this is a preview, right? It's not out yet. What kind of amazed me was that they now do, the way it works for people who haven't used it is basically, that's the whole ball game, is that you act as your own cloud. So you, for example, have your computer.
It's not even a cloud.
You
can't call it a cloud.
You are your own cloud. So basically, you have your computer at home or at the office running, and you can access those, or have somebody else access those files directly.
No cloud.
Without in between. So that's why you're your own cloud. Yeah.
But don't say cloud next to Michael.
Well, that's how they marketed it at NAB. He said, "Be your own cloud." That was literally their slogan. So. No, but of course, the issue here was, what are you doing if you have very large files? And what they showed here, what amazed me, is that you can, even if you have, I think, Blackmagic RAW and Red RAW, you have those files sitting on your computer. Of course, they're too big to transfer, but the software actually, using your at-home computer, is transcoding it in real time into something that can be viewed over the internet, even with a LUT attached, so with a preview LUT. So you can look at your raw footage, even if it's log, with a LUT attached remotely in kind of real time.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of stuff actually to play also original stuff if you need in the browser in general. But the main thing in the new version, that you can have, literally you have a finder, and that's the Strada finder. It will look like your own computer finder, and that will really gonna allow you drag and drop to the other side. We haven't touched yet the version 2. We played a little bit with version 1, and we really asked Michael and his team to consider to make it a bit more simple and forward, meaning that it will be either easier to drag and drop it to, let's say, the editor's laptop computer, or for the editor to literally take it from my computer or my or whatever camera. And they were listening, I guess, not only to us but for many, and that's the aim of the Strada 2, to make it more simple, like to make it simpler, to make it more like faster, and to make it much easier to use. And I personally am really looking forward to this type of advanced features, because Nino, of course, here you also need to have some sort of fast internet. But at the end, all of this workflow with Frame.io, and I saw it again this time, you're so much dependent on internet connectivity and how fast it is. Yeah? I mean, I can tell you, for example, that the Hyatt hotel in the airport, don't stay there. Internet is really, really, really slow. Sheraton, Universal, great internet. Hilton, in the middle. Yeah. So I don't want to come to the point that I'm choosing where to stay based on the internet connection.
But
I've
heard people talk about that. There should be a website that ranks hotels depending on how good their internet connection is. I don't care if there's a TV in my room. I don't care if there is cable in my room. I care about the internet speed. And I think that's true not only for people in our industry, but from other industries as well. And that, like you said, the funniest thing is that a lot of business type hotels have the worst internet in the world. But I will never understand. There should be a website ranking this.
Yeah, I lost a little bit of hair that I know that our editor in France, needs to get the footage in order to finish the editing in time. So here I'm going up to Frame.io, then he has to go down back to his computer, and imagine, even if I have a slower internet, but just to be able to send it directly and save one step here, that this is something that I'm really looking forward.
This was footage from the Fuji cameras, no?
The footage was from the Fuji camera, but the Fuji has nothing to do.
The bit rate, I mean, you used.
That was 360. I mean, we started a bit higher. We started with all intra 422 10 bit, and that was that was hey, come on, we are quality. But then we're
in Hollywood. Let's do it.
We're not Hollywood and even not Bollywood, but still. Yeah. But then we after the first day, I reduced to still 422.
Whatever we used
long up. No, I still kept it 10 bit.
It look well. I have to say, in general, the footage looks better also, right?
Yeah, so we kept it 422 10 bit, but in long up instead of all intra, 360 megabit per second, and that was sufficient. That was a good balance between quality and quantity, but still. I'm very much looking forward. Hopefully, within a month, this version 2 will be ready. And guys,
maybe if I can finally jump on it at IPC, maybe, who knows?
Yeah,
good. Good. Moving on, just briefly, NANLUX Matrix 2500B and 2500C. So those are really high output spotlights, really, right?
Yeah, and it's nice what they did here in terms of. A way to either connect them or not. A single fixture can even work on a household electricity, which is really great. Of course, if you connect the 4 of those, that's not the case anymore. And it comes with a motorized tray, so you can bring the whole thing forward and backward. I think in the video we have a very nice demonstration of this. And you have 2 versions of those. One is, of course, B-color, and the other one is like RGB, depending on what you need to do. And it's always nice to see NANLUX is really moving forward. They are very focused on what they do, and
but this is really, I mean, it's a motorized Fresnel lens. So is this stage lighting or?
No, they're also for production. It's not only for stage per se, but I'm sure there are many productions that might need something as strong as this, and there are many use cases. And of course, they're using the new light engine. This is maybe the latest buzz in the light industry. Everybody has its own light engine. That's the Nebula, and maybe by eye I can't really differentiate, because of course in such a show it's very difficult to see. But I guess if we're gonna measure light quality, I'm sure, I hope that we can see the difference. But not less important, the coffee at the booth is amazing. And it's very interesting how they make it. You want coffee, you have to register or something, and then of course they know what to do, and they get also emails and so on. So they know the stuff. Also, a lot of educational stuff is going on the booth. This is on every exhibition. So you can see that NANLUX do care about exhibition, about education, but also the way they produce stuff. And in this particular case, the light itself is a unit, and then you have the whole front with the lenses, the Fresnel lenses, and also you can see how the vent are built quite nice and to keep it very low in terms of noise, so it doesn't interrupt when you shoot.
Great. Briefly, ARRI AI, you talked to Shamir, the CEO, on building their software, right?
Well, not so much building the software, because you did already an interview on one of the on some of the latest at NAB, some of the developments. I was quite interested to know more about the background. And for those who don't know Shamir, this gentleman, he was working in production for many, many years. Then he developed Simon Says. You remember in the old days, I think you even interviewed him.
Yep.
After some time, he managed to sell it to Meta / Facebook, made the money, and instead of running away and spend the time on the Caribbean, he decided to come back to the crime scene and develop ARRI AI, which is literally supposed to help editors in their task, and it's supposed to do different stuff. Doesn't matter if you're doing documentaries or you just long form or whatever you make, it's supposed to help. I have to say that we still have to dive into this, and it's always an ongoing project. Yeah, they didn't reach the point that it's doing everything that it's supposed to do yet. So this is something that we really have to take a note. But one of the reasons that we are monitoring this, it's because I think we are very interested to see how a tool like this will impact even our own workflow in the future. And that's one of the reasons we chose this specific one to work with. Although I have to say that in the last few months, we see more and more tools doing exactly the same. Some of them have the advantage. For example, I forgot now the name of the tool, but one of the limitations with ARRI AI, when it cuts an interview, for example, it ignores the intonation. So sometimes it will cut on something that it shouldn't. And there is already another tool that can not only understand what the person is saying, but it can also identify the intonation. And that's, I think, very interesting, because then it knows where to cut in a better way. But we also discussed briefly if, for example, Adobe or whatever will do something like this, what does it mean for them? So obviously, because this is not really... It can work, and it is integrating. You can integrate it with Premiere, with Final Cut and DaVinci Resolve, but it's not a real plug-in. It's more like a standalone program. So he's not really concerned right now that if one of the companies will introduce something like this, that it will do everything that they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I mean, of course, they marketed this as an assistant editor just for the beginning part, and I think, the where it's most useful is long-form interviews where you just need to get the gist out of it. But like you said, I've worked with transcripts of interviews. We all have before using AI, and then sometimes you go back to the original and you really notice that the it doesn't get some of the intonation right, and then the clip or whatever isn't as good or doesn't sound like you imagined it, and then you need to actually go back to normally editing sometimes. So if intonation recognition could be a lot more useful.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the interview with Tilta that you did about their Illusion magnetic filter. So this is not the Mirage filter, no? That's something new.
That's something new. And basically, it's not that we haven't seen magnetic system in the past, but they're really trying to bring everything that has to do with variable ND next to some soft, like Promised and so on. And I actually like very much that they chose not to work with very, very strong Promised for example, but like something very subtle. So it just will kill the edges of digital in general. And it looks very nice. I mean, it makes made in China. Obviously, they're making good glass right now because we are used to see a lot of glass coming from Germany and so on. And it's very smooth. And it's stuck together in a very nice way. And not less important, when I think anytime I work with a variable ND in front of a lens, I don't have a cap for this ND to put. You literally, it's annoying. So there is even a cap here.
That's great.
Yeah. So this is a small thing like this. This is something really look to take a closer look at when it's 100% ready.
So you can stack, for example, an variable ND and put another promised on top.
That's right. You can really mix and match. The variable ND provides between 1 to 5 stops, and it's small. It's easy to transport, and when it comes to pricing, the basic kit, will cost $159, and that will go all the way to $270, depending on what you want.
And are there different sizes, or they just have one big size and you use step-up rings?
It's one size. Okay. It's a 82,
Perfect.
if I'm not mistaken.
That's exactly the one that I always recommend people to buy. I don't think it makes sense to use any smaller one because you can always use step-up rings.
That's right.
That's great. Yeah, cool. And then last but not least, I think the last video that you did is about the SIRUI IronStar 100mm macro lens.
Yeah, that's a very special lens, actually. I mean, we saw it for the first time at NAB, but now I was able to take a closer look. And the main thing here is really the macro function of this lens. How many times, if you're shooting with anamorphic, you know that if you want to shoot close objects, you always need to put some adapters in front, and this is really it's killing. I mean, it's either the image is okay, so, but to have another add-on and so on. Now with this lens, it's a no-brainer. Yeah, you can have one of those, and you can go as close as almost to the lens itself. And I really think it's a very nice thing that they did. So that's the 100mm. They also added the 135mm to the kit. So each lens will cost $999. And if you choose a set of 3, and you can really choose between the 35, 45, and 60, or the 75, 100, and 135, this will set you back for almost $3,000 US.
Did you have a wind machine on this booth? Look at his hair; it's beautiful.
Why do you look at his hair? Look at my hair.
Exactly, it's not yours. Is not moving. Why
Mine is not moving. Well, that's the amount of gel that I'm putting. For those of you who are not watching the video, there is no hair. But suddenly, but this is LA for me, or let's say it's really. It's very hot in the morning. Not in the morning. Morning is actually beautiful. You almost have like a natural diffuser with the clouds, and then it becomes really, really hot. And from the afternoon, the breeze will come, and then
the famous
the colors.
Santa Ana winds.
Yeah, and I have to say, I don't know if you see, we are using our Sony microphone, the one that we really like in exhibitions, but we kind of managed to still kind of not really a dead cat on top, but to put some
foamy.
And
I was wondering because we don't have that. Where did you steal that?
Well, Navik, my cameraman, had it from a different kit that he has, and absolutely it's working, and still the sound is really, really great.
Okay, just one question about the 100mm macro. So this is the 100mm lens is a macro. Or is there a separate version of this?
No, that's it. There's one version. In general, I think the IronStar, I think for some people, maybe it's a little bit, the overall characteristic of the anamorphic is maybe not so strong. It's a 1.5 squeeze. I use this lens also when I reviewed the Fujifilm Eterna 55 because it can literally almost cover the open gate also of the 55mm sensor. I wish it was a little bit stronger, but all in all, it's a nice, clean lens. It doesn't make the streaks are not that strong. Personally, I like it.
Maybe that's the kind of anamorphic lens people will still use when everybody got tired of the strong look.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a personal thing, but I really like when it's not so, because so many companies don't know how to distribute or nicely distribute the streaks, and then you have the flares. it's like somebody threw a bunch of blue stuff into the lens, and it will look very, very strong. When it's kind of more balanced, I think it's very, very nice. And if it's not that strong, it's also very nice.
All right. Good. That's it for CineGear stuff. You were busy. And
just one more thing. I know we are kind of trying to push forward. I guess some of you would like to know how was the atmosphere in general, because last year I think many people were just almost like had sad faces. I think this year the mood in general was much better. It's interesting to talk to manufacturers. The distribution of the plan of CineGear was a bit weird because some of the stages were actually occupied for real productions. It happened in the Universal Studios. So companies that were outdoor were in one place like last year, but the indoor, literally you either had to take a shuttle or walk for, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes to the other stages. Yeah, so it just, you had to plan this when you go from A to B. And I really wonder what it means for some of the manufacturers if they really suffered less people coming to their booth. And also imagine some of the companies that had the booth next to the stages outdoor actually suffered because those stages now were occupied by real productions. So that means that people simply didn't come that far. If those stages were open for CineGear, of course they would benefit from the traffic. But I saw some booths that were completely empty for a very long time. So if you talk to the manufacturers, some will tell you that was the best ever CineGear for them. I think in general because of the mood. Others will tell you that they really have to reconsider if to be there next year. And if yes, maybe to change like where to be. So
that's the challenge. I mean, for the organizers, must be so hard. They were at Warner Brothers before, they were at Paramount before, then they were during COVID at the LA Convention Center. That the only time actually where they weren't at a studio. Then at some point they got to Universal. It's really, and of course, real productions always have the priority. So, but that's the USP of CineGear, is being at a studio lot. So I don't know if they can ever find a permanent home, because I guess productions will always have the preference.
Sure. But for me personally, because I've been in at least 2 of the 3 outlets that you just mentioned, it's very friendly over there. It's very easygoing.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a lot of security before you enter, but still, it's not that you don't feel that anybody want to make you kind of miserable from any reason. And I think the organization in general was very nice. And really shout out to whoever attended, and of course to whoever planned it this time. I think unless you're a manufacturer and you're watching this, and if you have a different take on how the show was for you, or if you attended the show, please let us know.
Yeah. All right, moving on to Cadrage Studio. So as I mentioned at the beginning, Cadrage you might know as from their Viewfinder app, which has been out for smartphones for a very long time. They, alongside Artemis, are probably the premier viewfinder apps on phones that people are using. On the Cadrage app, you can select any kind of lenses that are in existence and get a preview of the field of view to really work on a little storyboard directly as a director's viewfinder. Of course, not with the actual depth of field look and so on, but just have the field of view from those lenses, and it's extremely helpful. Now, we know the team behind it, and they've been working on this for a very long time. They just launched a new app, which is separate from the Viewfinder app. It's called Cadrage Studio, and that is a pre-production app that really combines script, shot lists, camera diagrams, mood boards, and locations into one connected workspace with automatic scene and character detection, and even a LiDAR room scan version, which I haven't tried it out myself yet, but I'm really, because this is still a closed beta. But I will meet one of the persons behind it soon, and I'm very curious to see how it works. What interests me most is actually this 3D room scan version. I mean, for those of you who might know, we have a Scan and Plan is one of the MZ courses that we have, which deals with a Gaussian splatting scanning of actual locations in order to be able to do a shot list from the location you scouted afterwards. Now, Cadrage is actually taking this, Cadrage Studio is taking this to the next level, and we might actually have to add a lesson about that software to the course, because now you can scan your location with your phone and then get a 3D, like get a floor plan based on that scan. So, you know, we all know the problem. I mean, it's like you are on the location, you look at the location, you take a few photos, you come back home, you probably go back to set a couple weeks or months later, and you have completely wrong memory of how big or small the location was, what the distances were. And photos can be deceptive because of the field of view that you're using. Usually on a phone, you're quite wide angle-ish. But even a telephoto, you know, it's very tough to do. So that's why the Gaussian splatting makes sense. But what also makes a lot of sense is just have something like this, which literally scans your room and then makes an actual floor plan from that, and has the exact measurements in there. That's very, very useful. I'm very curious to try that out. And they're really working on integrating a lot of different stuff there. So there's location management, and of course the scanning uses the LiDAR function of iPhones and iPads that's built in. You have script, you have mood boards, you have storyboards, and all combined into that. So I'm very, very curious. It's not, again, out there yet to try, but I'm very curious to try out the beta if I get a chance to, and we'll report back, because this looks extremely comprehensive, actually. And this is for iPads, and I think, it actually also works on macOS. So it's one of those things that because of Apple has moved into Apple Silicon a long time ago, now you can have apps that literally work on iPad and Mac the same way, which is great, of course, and also the iPhone itself. So I'm very curious to try this out. We don't have pricing on this yet. I know that this will be a subscription software. Cadrage, the Viewfinder app, isn't. That's a one-time purchase, but this one will be a subscription-based thing. But yeah, I'll try to find out more soon. Let's move on to the Kinefinity VISTA briefly. Actually, we've reported about it. We have one here. You will work on a review of that camera. Firmware is still early beta, I would say, right?
I mean, just that you know, guys, they will add ProRes, internal ProRes recording very soon. And this is one of the reasons that I didn't complete the review. The other thing is that the H.265 for now, you can only read it in DaVinci Resolve. You can't read it in Adobe Premiere and so on. But within the next week or so, everything will be resolved. The people are very determined to finish, the people behind Kinefinity. One of the most amazing things is actually that the original price was $2,500 US, and right now you can actually get the camera for $2,000.
Really? But I thought 2,500 is the
no. And there's an introductory price, and I think that's right. And because we can see the backhand of our B&H affiliate. Obviously, people are taking advantage of this and buying the camera. It's a very nice camera for what it is. The main limitations, just that you know, is there is no autofocus in that camera, but other than that, the size is really so nice to have. There's an internal SSD that you can work with. My personal favorite feature is actually the USB-C that I can connect the viewfinder to it, and it will power the viewfinder, because with so many other cameras you simply
it's just one cable.
So that's really nice. No, you need a HDMI for viewing.
You do? But I thought it's
no. For the HDMI you need for viewing, but for powering, otherwise you always need an.
I thought it's display port.
No. It's not a display port.
Yeah.
There's one CF Express Type P slot. There is also two HDMIs here, two USB-C. The screen itself, the LCD, the OLED screen is quite big. It's 4-inch, like what you used to see in the Nikon. And of course, open gate in this camera. Yeah, and for the price, again,
incredible.
It's really incredible. And you can get it in PL, and Kinefinity has their own mount, like a Kine mount or E-mount. And if you buy it with the E-mount, you can it's an active an active mount, and then you can control aperture, for example, of some electronic lenses from Sony and so on.
I'm really looking forward to your review.
Me too. I mean, I'm very interested to see how the image, if it's like from previous, but similar to previous Kinefinity cameras, which was very nice, yeah. But here, this time, it looks like the company is taking a whole different marketing direction. They are very focused. They are very dedicated. There's a lot of interest in the camera. The price is right. The form factor is right. So let's see. I really hope it's going to perform well.
Yeah, it's a very nice. It just looks amazing, and I think it's what a lot of people have been waiting for. Good. Let's move on to some Apple news. Actually, WWDC 26 just kicked off a couple of days ago. And I mean, there weren't many news which are relevant for photographers or filmmakers. There's a couple new features in iOS 27, which will, like make a spatial scene out of static photos, which is quite impressive. So you can do like a 3D photo from something that isn't 3D, actually, like but other than that, there wasn't much. But there was quite a lot for Apple Immersive Video, which was not mentioned at the keynote because, of course, it's not huge news for a lot of people. But it's kind of, like countering all those people who keep saying that the Vision Pro is dead. You can see that they're really investing into an ecosystem. And I think it's slowly taking shape that they're working on something else, which nobody officially knows of course. But that the Vision Pro is just their first step into this immersive computing space that's probably going to add more products in the future because they're investing a lot of it in terms of what it can do. So what Apple Immersive Video is now getting is live formats. And the interesting thing, I think that is one of the things for those of you who have had the chance to use a Vision Pro, and I'm quite impressed by the quality of it, is now that we can get streaming on this device, and that's amazing for various reasons. The main one being that it's a massive amount of data we're talking about. I mean, we're looking at 90 frames per second at 8K times 2 for 2 eyes. So imagine 16K at 90 frames per second. That's what the Ursa Cine Immersive needs to shoot for recording, right? That's why there is a massive amount of data. No network in the world would be able to stream this live. So they have developed a new technology which is called foveated streaming, which is literally just downloading what you're looking at, because the Vision Pro always knows what you're looking at. You're selecting objects by looking at them and then pinching. And also the streaming, while you're looking at it, it's only streaming the part that you see with your vision. So, for example, if I were to film this in 180 degrees, for example, with an Ursa Cine Immersive, and where I were to live stream what I'm looking at right now, it would only stream basically your face, and everything else would be just in a lower quality version, because it wouldn't make a difference for me because I'm not looking at it. As soon as I'm shifting my attention to something else, and it's working this fast that you actually don't notice. So it's a lot less data that needs to be transferred, and it's quite an amazing technology. Now, of course, this being their worldwide developer conference, it gets quite technical in how this works. But they're fully integrating this with ProRes, spatial audio, and calibrated lens metadata into a codec called MVHEVC, which is based on H.265. And you can see, they're kind of building the foundation for a lot more that must be coming here, which is quite interesting. And also the tracking, there's a lot of things that they're working on, which I see can probably find the light of day in other Apple products in the future. If you look at, in general, how the whole, like imagine having eye tracking on your computer. Like you don't need a mouse anymore. You could just look at things. Theoretically, they have the technology now. This stuff, like you don't need to.
And then I looked at the computer, and then what?
No, you look there and then you like make a little gesture with your hand and you just select stuff. They have the technology, and it's just coming to more and more things now. And I think this is when it's always interesting to look very closely to what they actually show at WWDC, not in the keynote, but all those other videos and all the other documents they release, because it's always a sign of things to come in the future. And you can see they're really building the groundwork for interfaces that go beyond the normal, like trackpad, keyboard type of things that will also find the light of day in the future in other products for sure. So that's the interesting part for me, apart from this stuff which is specific to immersive video and streaming. And I think the streaming is the important because when you watch something on the Vision Pro, it really feels like you're there. So the logical next step is to do a live event. Like imagine watching the football World Cup through immersive and just being in the field with the players and stuff like that. They do this for the NBA and the NBA games. I think there can still be some enhancements of where the cameras are placed, but it looks, I've never been a guy who, I'm not a big sports watcher because I always get bored by watching a lot of sports actually. But watching NBA games through Vision Pro is quite cool because it feels like you're sitting on the edge of the field. And I think there's a huge market for that kind of stuff in the future.
Do you think it's an age thing, because I'm so much not interested in that?
Because it didn't work for you when you had you tried.
but even yes, it's like it's really
not an age thing. My mom loves it, and she's older than you.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, so it's really an interesting. Zero interest in this.
Yeah.
You want to see football, you go to the game. You want to see it on TV, you watch TV.
How are you gonna go to the game?
Why? You don't want to pay $1,200 for entry ticket for the World Cup?
No,
really, it's peanuts.
That's when suddenly the Vision Pro seems cheap for $3,500.
By the way, that's another thing because I checked with some of the personnel. I was very curious. We're just few days before the World Cup.
Yeah,
part of it will take also place in Los Angeles. Hotels are empty.
180,000 tickets are still not sold for the group
hotels
phase.
Are empty and the prices are because
well, it's America. I mean, they
nothing to do. It's like
they are not soccer people. The US has only recently warmed up a little bit to it. So
yeah, that's only one reason. There's so many. We will not go into politics because that's not the focus here. But I'm just saying that when you start to charge a lot of money, you lose the core fans and like why should I pay?
All right, talking about live again. I've mentioned this a couple of times, so I'm keeping it brief. But just because it's out now, our ARRI documentary from Eurovision is finally out. So it's 23 minutes deep dive into how those 24 Alexa 35 live cameras were used at the Eurovision 2026 in Vienna. Very proud of the result. It was a lot of work. It gets a lot of views. It's around 26,000 views already. If you haven't seen it, I beg you to watch it and give some feedback, leave a comment, leave a question. I'm happy to answer it. I have to say the whole experience was great because of the people who are involved from every side, the camera operators, but also the team from ARRI and Riedel was so helpful and supportive, even though the access was really, really difficult. And I don't think you probably see it in the documentary, which is great. But it was, like the security and kind of access we had. It's just difficult because, of course, as a behind-the-scenes crew, you're not the most important thing there at all. But I think for what it is, I think that it turned out quite well. And it is a quite fascinating look into also the things that went right and went wrong at this production and what they learned from it and what it means to use cinema camera on the biggest live music event in the world. And they're going to take this experience and apply to sports events in the future, I'm sure. So anyway.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's out now. It's a link in the show notes to watch the full documentary on YouTube. It's hosted on the Cined and ARRI channels simultaneously. Good. Let's move to the end of this show. So the GoPro, we know, just released a new line of products, the Mission 1 and Mission 1 Pro. The Mission 1 Pro ILS, that's the version of this camera that has a removable lens with Micro Four Thirds mounts, is not out yet. We have received the Mission 1 Pro. I'm very curious to put my hands on it because I'm seeing a lot of really amazing slow motion footage from this camera. It looks very impressive. I would still call it an action camera, but a bigger action camera, and it's going to be very useful for a lot of productions, I think. However, there's one thing we needed to report about, which is that there was an audit report put out for this public company GoPro that there is a going concern doubt, which is financial speak for the company might not survive the year. And this is just, of course, important to note. So they are really betting everything on this product launch, and we all hope that it's going to work because they seem to be great products. I think it's really, it's the clock is ticking for them, and I just hope it's going to be a successful product. We also gave them a Cine Best of Show award for NAB because we just think they really convinced me in this long interview that we did, which is also embedded in this article. And I think 65,000 people of our reviewers also saw this, so it's the most popular video by far that we've done at NAB, surprisingly. But a lot of people want to see GoPro succeed with this, and I really, really hope that they are going to turn the corner here. But yeah, it's a
tough one.
It must be a very tough situation they're in right now. And last but not least, I want to mention the Chronos Project Edge, which is somebody I've met years ago, a filmmaker from the US who is really specialized. His company is called Biolabs. And the name is Chris Field, and his company Biolabs is specializing in long-term time lapses of nature stuff. That's why it's called Biolabs. Really smart name, actually. He's been working a lot of BBC documentaries, Discovery Channel documentaries, where you really see plants growing. Like literally those time lapses that go on for weeks and months sometimes. And the challenge he has always faced is that those long-term time lapses, especially when they're outdoors, you can't expose your camera to the weather for such a long time, right? That's why there are these construction time-lapse cameras that are basically, like really old sensors, tiny sensors in some really sturdy housings, basically. But they're not cinema cameras or large sensor cameras. So he has worked on a system that is almost like a modified Peli case, essentially, which is a long-term remote time-lapse rig. So you can put your camera inside of it, and then you can see it here if you watch the video version. You can put a DSLR or mirrorless camera inside of it. It almost looks like an underwater housing. We've seen some of those before, which are made out of Peli cases. And it's made to be solar powered, so it has a solar panel on top, which is of course very smart. So it can act completely independently without you having to swap batteries or anything like that, or even deal with external powering. And it can theoretically run forever if your memory card has enough space. And of course, we know there are very large memory cards. So this is him working at the studio. He's been working a lot with Kessler and their rigs and sliders and so on for time-lapse stuff. And I love that he's really going into this and making a product out of this. Now, this is a Kickstarter campaign. The Chronos Project Edge is pre-production unit is starting at $2,800 and is 2,500 euros. And it can be ordered now. I think it can also be ordered through their store. So it's not a theoretical project that's not existing yet. It seems to be ready to ship already, and it's on Kickstarter now. So if you are into long-term time lapses, please take a look. This is really a project from another filmmaker who had this problem and solved it for himself and is now selling it. All right, let's wrap it up here.
Yeah,
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you, Nino.
Thank everybody for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a comment on the YouTube video or email us at podcast@cined.com, and hear you next week. Bye.
Bye.